Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So, I'm not sure if this was the best course of action, but I did say we'd be reacting to a great many things, not just goofy fun time, kind of memes and anime and TV shows and all the like. So this is just my warning. Opinions, basically. Opinions are going to be thrown around in this video, and hopefully you can at least see it from my perspective. But the main reason why I'm even jumping into this minefield, which is this commercial, is because I've seen a lot of people react to it and just kind of talk about it, and I kind of feel like people miss the mark of why people are frustrated. And maybe I'm wrong. Again, I'm super not against being incorrect about this, but I just think that a lot of people, the way they've been looking at it, they conveniently don't give credit to other things, you know what I mean? I don't know. So we're just going to go through things. I also haven't seen the trailer in full form. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but yeah. Today we're going to be talking about the controversial Gillette ad that is the best men can be. Yes, this is causing quite the fuss on the internet in certain crowds. And yeah, I'm going to do my best to explain my thoughts on it. Again, this is just my opinion. If you're like, hey, I don't want any of this kind of dramatized bullshit right now, then feel free, again, warning, to just check out the other videos that we got going on the channel. Anyways, let's begin with Gillette, the best a man can be.
Bullying.
The Me Too movement against sexual harassment.
Masculinity.
Is this the best a man can get? Is it?
It's likely happening here in bullying as well.
A problem we can't hide from it.
Sexual harassment.
Okay, so I think the people's problem with that thing, where it's like bullying, especially in that context, it like it lacks further context, which I think is why people are frustrated with it. The whole like bullying comment, where like what is the context of the kid getting bullied by? Like, is it over social media? In that case, women do that more than men. I think why so many people are so disheartened by this commercial is largely because it's the way you're portrayed in the media, and I feel like the only comparison to this is the same frustration that a lot of women had with magazines that like showed super thin women, and you're frustrated because that's not the actual representation of a normal human, and that's the standard that you're held to. In this case, it's an unattainable standard. In men's case, at least for this Gillette commercial, it very much seems like the vast majority of men are scummy pieces of shit. Like who like, I don't know, talk down to women, and who are on the corporate ladder, who just shit on everybody. And I don't think that's the vast majority, but yet that's what's being portrayed. So at a base level, it does feel jarring, where you're like, come on, man, I'm not like that. And then the argument is, oh, well, that shouldn't concern you then. Although this is not talking to you if you're not any of these things. But it's like, but then why did that model that looks so good on the cover of whatever XYZ magazine affect women in the way that it did? Well, because it's what you're perceived like, and that's damaging. And again, if the fact that men can't, like, there's a scene in here that I seen in passing when another person was talking about this, that it shows two kids roughhousing, like just wrestling basically, and it's actually an amazing. I'll wait for you guys to see it, because I kind of find it funny. But the good thing about this whole Gillette commercial, it seems like it's just riddled with memes, like just the meme potential so goddamn high.
Is taking over.
It's been going on far too long.
Okay, so this is ridiculous to me. Yes, TV is fucking nonsense craziness, but it's TV. And most people can understand the difference between a video game, reality, TV, reality, you know? And the same thing is like, if that is the case, then every rap music, anything, should be abolished. Because, no, like, even though there's rappers who grew up in a very horrible neighborhood or whatever, who constantly preach about these horrible things that happen to them, or about how good they're doing in comparison to where they were or something like that, that doesn't mean the kids are going to be like, it's okay to shoot people or sell drugs. You know, that's not the case.
We can't laugh it off.
Who's the daddy?
What I actually think she's trying to say.
Making the same old.
Okay, so here's the thing that also frustrates me, is the whole thing with this one, you know, the classic thing you see, and I think any dude who would see this that isn't part of that, you know, whatever group, would be like, okay, dude seems like potentially could be being just a total dickhead about this whole situation, right? I think vast majority of men would be like, fucking dickbag, you know, douche, whatever. Or this could be seen as the alternative, which is mansplaining, which to me, I don't know, man, that's the most frustrating part about this whole thing that is this thing, is that like, for instance, mansplaining, what determines that it's mansplaining? A lot of times nowadays, whenever I've seen it be used, it's used as a combative way to silence the other person. When it, like, why is it mansplaining? I'm just explaining to you my point or my resolve or my place in this conversation. I'm not talking down to you. You're perceiving it as talking down to you, but I can promise you, I have no ill will towards you. Shut up, you're still mansplaining. And it's like, I'm just explaining. There's no men here. Like, you're the one who's perpetuating these gender things anyway. Like, I'm just explaining my point. It's not like male talking down to you. And if it is the case, then that's not a mansplaining anything. That's a dick. That's a douche. That's a bad person. It's void of fucking gender and shit. I don't understand. And that's why it's also frustrating about it. It's like, well, why does it have to be man? Why does it have to be woman? Why does she have to be being a bitch? Why does he have to be being a cunt? I understand the premise of needing to, like, put these things in there so you can box someone in and fuck them up, especially when that's apparently what you're supposed to be fighting against. It's almost like fighting fire with fire, and of course people are like, what are you doing? And then they get mad at you. And then there's the other thing, which happened way back in the day, which I also don't agree with, which is the whole man-spreading thing, where women, I'm not sure if it was women, again, I honestly don't think many, like the vast majority of women, also I don't believe in the like the renounding amount of this stuff going on. I'm not saying it doesn't go on. I'm just saying the frustration with men with this commercial, I think, is due to the fact that it's the way you're perceived in the general public, and that the vast majority of men, I don't think, are like this. And they're annoyed of themselves constantly being portrayed as this kind of stupid man's man, kind of stuck in the 80s, smack your kid across the face if he does something wrong to you, talk down to his wife or whatever it is, this horrible shit. I think the vast majority aren't like that, but they were constantly still portrayed as this, especially now, when it's like, I think more than at any point, men and women alike are doing really well to kind of get past the things that kind of lock you in place, that are like, what people would deem to be gender roles or whatever like that. And again, there's some people who just are completely fine with being in that role. Like, that's also something that is equally as incorrect nowadays as well.
Old excuses.
Boys
See
will
this.
be boys. Boys will be boys.
It's not about boys being boys. It's about two kids wrestling. That's the thing that's frustrating. There's like two kids wrestling. Me and my brothers and my buddies used to do this constantly. I don't think it's mean. And in fact, with being a man, having testosterone coursing through your body, especially when you're developing as a boy, and you need to fucking do something, and your parents don't like put you into sports or something like this is what you do. You just fucking wrestle. You put someone in like an arm bar, and you wrestle with each other, push them on the ground, that kind of shit. It's crazy. But you get your shit done, and then you finally, you're like, we're good. Otherwise, you'd be a crazy person. And of course, it's stereotypical, like, they take that thing, boys will be boys. Like, again, I haven't heard this context be used in anything besides, oh, they're fighting, oh, they're wrestling, you know what I mean? We're like, yes, there is a difference between, like, cruel abuse and like, play fighting. Like, clearly there is this difference. Otherwise, why would sports like wrestling exist? And I think that's the thing. It's like all the issues you're talking about are incredibly complex, and you just boil them down to like a few different things, which is frustrating, especially when you're the one that they're boiling things down for. You know what I mean? Where they're like, oh no, when they just say boys will be boys, they specifically mean that they're trying to reinforce these super evil male things. And it's like, motherfucker, I'm none of those things, and you constantly keep saying that I am those things, and it's frustrating. And then oh god, and then you just say male privilege to shut my goddamn mouth. But that's not how that works. That's not a conversation, my guy. Moving on.
But something finally changed.
Allegations regarding sexual assault and sexual harassment.
But she
Yes.
says
Okay, so this is the thing. They're like, again, I don't know many men who are like, I don't know any men actually who are like, you know what, the whole Me Too thing, when it's actually proven that this person's a scumbag, fuck them. You know what I mean? I'm in that camp. Throw them in a fire. You know what I mean? If some dude's being a creep and like, asserting his power over you and saying like, if you don't do this thing right now, I'm gonna fire you, and that so happens to be a sexual act, then yes, fuck them. But I don't, like, that's the thing. I think a vast majority of men are in that camp where they're like, yeah, gross. You know what I mean? Whereas they're like, men need to do better. What are you talking about, man? I'm pretty sure the majority of men, and maybe I'm just insular, maybe I just don't know, but I hardly doubt that, man. I think most dudes are like, that's kind of slimy and gross. If I had a daughter, I'd probably tell her, stay away from that kind of shit. But that's also the thing. It's like, yes, you want to prepare your kid to be resilient against the horror of the world. You can't, and this is what a lot of this stuff is nowadays, you can't just make it stop. You should always try to push to it for a future that works better for, you and etc. But like,
And there will be no going back. Because we believe in the best in men.
Men need to hold other men accountable.
Smile, sweetie. Come on.
To say that
so this is also something I like, it's weird, where it's like, again, this is that whole, okay, so this is a larger frustration that I have with this current social thing, where it seems like largely now people are focused on like, we need to change the world. We need to be, as a society, better in this way, and these are the values that we should have. When at a core level, just that string of thought isn't the case. Like most people going through your life, you develop the values and the core beliefs that you have, and hopefully they're not inherently shitty. And who are you to tell someone that isn't the right values to have? Like, for instance, say if someone gets the shit kicked out of them by their father, mother, whatever, and they grow up and the things that they cherish is being strong and protecting people, because maybe, I don't know, whatever happened, right? Like maybe their parents beat them, and so that's what they deem, and they don't ever want to become their parents, so that they choose to be better. And those are the things that they have, that they desire. They want to be strong, and they want to be able to protect the people that they hold dear, because they were never really protected. And you're going to look at that person and say, how dare you? How dare you try to protect your woman in a case of this or this? Or in this instance, again, where the dude is coming to the rescue of the lady. All right, just gonna backtrack real quick. But again, a lot of people are of the mind of like, we need to change society, or we want to create a world where war doesn't exist. And me, I'm just a crazy person, but I've always believed that's not a sustainable goal. You can't count. It sounds brutal, but you can't count on the world just to change just because you want it to. The only thing that you can do, and is absolutely in your control, is to become stronger, to be more resilient, to become better. But that isn't through this guise of like that lady who is, being said something incredibly rude or whatever, like, smile more, you need to be more happy, stop being such a bitch, like, yes, that's a rude ass person. But then again, as a female, she should be like, you know what, I know enough about myself that I'm none of the things that this person is or saying I am. I know who I am, and I'm gonna push forward, ignoring this dirtbag, Whereas a dude, that to me is partially, like, bad masculinity as well. When a dude's like, hey bro, what the fuck are you talking to that girl? You know what I mean? Like, that to me is frustrating. It's annoying. It's just like this bro dude going ham. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I find it that, like, there are examples. Like the whole trailer, in retrospect, is kind of not that bad. Again, my issue is kind of with the wrestling with the kids. I think is just ridiculous, I think. But then there's other moments that I kind of agree with. Like if you're in the office and you're like, one dude's like, well, actually what Karen meant is, fucking dumb bitch, is what Karen meant is this. That's a dick move. And I think a lot of people would be like, majority of men would be like, what an asshole, what a dick. Karen, kick him in the dick and tell him how stupid he is or something, right? I think majority of men would do that. Then there's other instances where, like, again, what do you call it? There's like the whole kids are wrestling and then boys will be boys. I think the weirdness is like kids wrestling and like, he's on top of me. Like, this kid doesn't look like he's fucking wanting to die. You know what I mean? Like, what is going on? This kid's clearly like, I'm gonna get you, you son of a bitch. Just let me get up. That's what this is. And then there are examples of again, there are examples of what loses me. This is where the trailer, like, super just like, ugh.
to say the
Whereas, like, you should smile more, and this
right
dude
thing.
just jumps in. He's like, hey, I'm gonna punch you in your
act
goddamn face.
the right way.
Okay, and this is another thing, where, like, again, I don't think, there are, okay, maybe I'm stepping on a line here, I'm assuming things, but I think there are a good amount of females that are 100% fine with men pursuing them. Because the inverse of that is them having to pursue men, them having to be like, hey, like, instead of, a dude coming up to you at a bar or at a social encounter, be like, hey, bang. Maybe that's their argument. Maybe that on the street is not a social encounter, but maybe that's how you meet the person that fucking you fall in love with. Who knows? You know? So it's weird where it's like pursuing, like where this guy's like, oh, this girl's beautiful, I'm gonna go up to her, and of course, you know, they make it him the most slimy, like, oh, dude, come here, hon. Like, it's the most, who exists? Who is like this that exists? In the vast majority of men, I don't think it's the case. The universe will fall in line where most women would be like, ugh, or maybe not. Maybe he gets all the ways. In that case, maybe that's just the way it's working for him. And maybe girls, clearly, it's working for them as well. You know, I don't know. This whole thing seems weird, where it's like the whole pursuing a woman, and then this dude being like, whoa, bro, not cool. And I'll agree, not that much class, but at the same time, we know nothing of this person. You know, I don't know. Because then the inverse of that is having to be the person who has to walk up to the person and say, like, if that's the case, I'm all game. You know what I mean? As an introvert, that seems fine to me. Where you have to be the one that's being approached, and that's fine. That seems great, but I don't think that's the case. and genetically, that's also not how it usually works. But anyways, moving on.
Not cool. Not cool.
Some already are. In ways big
Yo, men,
and small.
I am strong.
And then there's moments like this where, like, they're nice in context, but in the context of, like, men, and, like, yes, you're telling your daughter to be strong, which is awesome. I'm completely behind that. But at the same time, it's a weird argument, but I kind of understand what they're saying, where it's like, but why doesn't a dude need to hear this either? You know what I mean? Like, this is, like, children need to believe that they are okay. And again, largely, like, this whole trailer can be taken down by a peg by just being like, it's people. And this, to me, doesn't reinforce people. It reinforces, like, the stereotypes of what a bad, evil man is, without saying that is innately not the case. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and again, I believe personally, it's far easier to follow a destined path by saying, here is the good that you should do. Here is the good examples of what, like, this dude did. Like, this dude saved this woman, or this father who was a single father raised a boy and a girl, and fucking they're champions, you know, because he looked after them, he took care of them, bang, bang, bang. Be this man, even if you're not a single father. You know what I mean? This is what a man can be. Looking after these kids, making sure everything is fucking going great, bang. You know, that's something where you're like, you know what, I want to be like that guy, and I want to kind of try to understand and be responsible enough to be able to handle that. I don't think any men got that from this trailer. It was like, a lot of the things that you get is like, you feel jaded almost, because you're like, well, wait, what? I don't think many people are any of these things. Well, I'm not saying that there's not monsters and people that just breathe malice into the world. Not at all. I think that totally exists. But I think this whole thing is weird. Like, again, the whole execution seems incredibly flawed. And I think it'd be much better off going against the whole realm of being like, you know what, human beings could be better. Or if you're going to do the whole man angle, maybe don't show men in the worst fucking light possible. You know, like, again, I'm all for, like, throwing dirt in the faces of truly fucking sick men, like the Me Too stuff that are actually 100% accurate and shit like that. Fuck them, right? Throw them to fire. I'm in that camp. I'm not so much in the camp of, like, you know, the kids wrestling, you know. And this is the moment that just makes me laugh. There's not this moment where he's stopping the kid from being, like, bullied and chased, because that's fucked up. Again, I think there's a big difference between kids being evil and, like, wicked and cruel. Cruel's a good word. There's a difference between cruel and like wrestling and like horse playing with your friends, you know. And this trailer doesn't exactly do a good job of like explaining that. Anyways, but this shit's funny to me right
is
here.
not enough.
Not this guy.
It's not how we treat each other, okay?
This shit right here. This guy. that to me just seems funny. I don't know. Just him being like,
It's not how we treat each other, okay?
I mean, there's wrestling. Like, I don't understand. I'm not sure why that's so evil and malicious. Don't get wrong. If this kid's getting jumped, that one scene isn't bad. This kid's getting jumped. Let the dad come in and be like, you're fucked up. Everyone else, come on, kid. That's nice. Again, that's what to me you should have focused on in the trailer, is to show, like, instead of being like, man, fucking men, instead of being like, listen, here are the good role models for you to actually follow, instead of being like, you know what, you're pretty shit. And just in case you didn't really figure it out, you're pretty shit. And it's like, that's not the way you make good changes in the world. Like I can't say it, Martin Luther King, I can't say his goddamn name because my tongue is not working with me today, but his speech, which is beautiful and brilliant, he wasn't like, now it's our turn, whatever. He was like, no, I have a dream where all men are created equal. And that's beautiful, and that's everything that someone can kind of get behind and be like, okay, yeah, home of the free in America or whatever. I'm a Canadian, but even still. Yeah, whereas this is, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff that seems off the mark. Like, again, I don't know, if they showed the kid, like, just fucking power bombing this kid right in the fucking face with his hands and, like, doing a bunch of horrible shit, then I'm like, okay. But as of right now, I just see this kid kind of, like, holding him down. Maybe they roll over, he's on top of him, he rolls over, gets him in, like, a headlock, but then he realizes he doesn't know how to do fucking anything. So then the other kid gets on top of him again. It's a whole thing, you know?
Each other, okay?
Because the boys watching today will be the men of tomorrow.
Ultimately, it just seems like it kind of missed the mark. You know what I mean? We talked about a lot of stuff in this video, guys. And again, there's parts of the commercial that are fine, but I think a lot of the time people try to focus on those parts and not about what people genuinely have an issue with. Like, again, the fact they're like, wait, what's wrong with, yeah, TV? But we could source that back from everything and be like, yes, what we visually see is in front of us, but I don't think it dictates exactly what we are. You know what I mean? If you see MTV or whatever, and you see a bunch of girls twerking, or you go on Instagram, you see a bunch of girls twerking, I don't think people are like, fucking sluts. I don't think that's how that works. At best, you get, like, thought. That's what you get, which just means that you're, a pretty woman online at this point. I honestly don't know what the difference is. But I think it means attention something. But anyways, regardless, I don't think this is exactly on the mark at all, because there's thousands of different things like this, like with women, with people with different nationalities that are being played like in their stereotypical role. Like, just, it seems like a weird thing where it's like you're coming at this from this angle, but it's already being manipulated by 1,000 other angles. So why are they being excluded? And then there's this where there's like, I don't know, when was the last time that this happened? And if it is the case, can comedy not exist? Where this dude's like, being a creep or whatever, and people are laughing? I mean, if it's a sitcom that's supposed to be a comedy, I don't know, man. I'm a firm believer of if it's comedy, if it's through the guise of like, yes, this is a comedy special kind of thing, then it's not serious. It's not trying to be serious. It's not trying to be an actual, true to form thing. It's not like, hey, this is how you should be. It's like, hey, this is just a stupid game joke thing that we're doing here. Like, this is not real. This is fake. This is a comedy. It's funny because it's absurd. You shouldn't be like this. Like, this dude's making like these, ooh, look at the butt on that lady or whatever, This is, again, not all parts of the show are bad. This is a real dick move. This dude's a real prick. Okay, if this is the context of the situation, dude seems like a prick. Yeah. I feel like people also don't empathize with another human being as well. For instance, like if someone has a long ass day of work, man or woman, they get on the train or the bus or whatever, and they're sitting there and they're like, oh, maybe they're so tired of trying to think about what they're going to make for dinner or how they're going to deal with their kid because he's got shit going on. And maybe as a woman, you leave your purse to the left of your side, which is holding up a spot. And maybe you're just trying to go through your day, you're exhausted, you're trying to figure things out. Maybe you're a guy, you're sitting there, you're not even thinking, you're just kind of trying to piece everything together, and your legs are a little bit spread open because you're not even fucking thinking about it. You think you're at home on the couch trying to think of what's going on. Maybe that happens as well. Like, empathy is dying, and I think that's not good. Whereas, like, not the whole world isn't a fucking nightmare. Some parts are, believe you me. We're pretty fucking blessed in Canada and America and other countries. But believe you me, it's horrifying. And I feel like we're losing sight of the horror in the world, and we're starting to just get bored and look at other things. Moving on, next thing.
Making the same old
again, the whole fighting, play fighting, boys will be boys is the same. I feel the same way about boys will be boys, about the whole, what is it, the goddamn meme, the frog meme, where people are like, that's now a Nazi memorabilia thing, and I'm like, I mean, it can be, anything can be that though, like all that has, anything can be that. If Nazis or whatever grab that emblem and say, bang, that's now us, then that's gone. It doesn't seem sustainable. Anyways, boys will be boys, the same thing, where it's like, I don't think it's entirely evil or negative to say this. It's the context in which it's used which makes it evil or negative. Complicated. Complex.
Allegations regarding sexual
Me Too stuff.
assault and sexual harassment.
A lot of this stuff makes sense, where it's like, yes, if dude's sexually harassing his secretary, fuck him, I think most dudes will get behind that, where it's like, yeah, that's kind of gross. Then there's other cases where like, hey, dude has secretary. They're in a romantic relationship. It all works out. They're happy together, and then bang, and then it's okay. But maybe there's regret happens, and then she's like, no, that's not okay. And now he asserted his power over me, and that's now a problem.
Because we need to say the right thing.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, so many opinions, so little caring, honestly. That's also one of the reasons why I don't want to do these too much, because who gives a fuck what I'm saying, you know what I mean? Which is also why I think so many people are annoyed by commercials like this, where it's so in your face, and so many people are like, dude, like, just leave me alone. Like, I'm not, like, unless I'm fucking up super bad, then yes. But at the end of the day, like, I'm not a monster. Like, I'm not this fucking thing that you keep perpetuating where, like, this super bro dude's like, I'm gonna go fuck that chick, bro. Let's do it. And it's like, okay, if you exist and that works, I mean, then I guess the market decides, you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand. I would like to think that most times this doesn't work on a clever girl, you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure there's like fucking, nah fam, gross. And then he's like, well, guess I should change my approach. You know what I mean? That's usually how it should work. But then again, that's another thing where, like, I think another issue that people have with stuff like this, where it's people trying to tell you what your inherent value should be, despite that's not how values work. Your values are developed through you going through life and your experiences that you have. Again, I mentioned the whole aspect of, like, someone who is, what do you call it? You're like, you know what, you should be really open and super soft and kind and really, you know, always think what the other person's feeling. And these are not bad traits. But say that's what you believe, and then you meet another person who is instead, he's very much a man's man, you know, that typical thing that pops into your mind, where he's quiet, he's stern, he's big, whatever, he's strong, he's very protective of his family and all these things. And then you go back into his history and you find out that maybe his parents kicked the shit out of him, or his brother did, or something like that, and he felt like weak his entire life. So when he grew up, his values were strength and being able to protect the people that he loves, because maybe something happened with his mom and dad, they fought, whatever. That's his inherent value. So it's weird that, like, despite that is the case, where people do come up with their inherent values based on their life, there's people like Gillette, or like the Pepsi commercial with Kylie Jenner or whoever it was, where they're like, Pepsi solves every world problem ever. Cool. And then they left. And people were like, well, what are you doing? And then with this, again, I very much feel like I kind of hit what I believe the annoyance and the frustration is from a man's perspective with this. Where it is very much like the whole notion of, like, why are we constantly being perceived like just total fucking dickheads? Again, my comparison was like, special beauty magazines portraying an image for women that is not the normal woman, and is honestly not good to be a normal woman. And honestly, I don't believe it's entirely good to be the person that they're showing here, like where like the dad is telling his boys not to wrestle, and they're like, he's like, fuck off, like that's you, we don't do that here. You gotta be like this. You just gotta be like, hey, I'm just like everyone else. I'm not gonna express my, what do you call it, my goddamn energy that I have as a fucking male child who just wants to fucking bounce off the walls. Instead, I'm gonna sit here and then I'm just gonna become a serial killer. Just gonna sit here and become a fucking crazy person because I'm not able to deal with my emotions. That's a great fucking commercial. What if you actually went against some of the male stereotypes that are out there, like how it's not wrong to cry, or to feel any of those things, right? Like, and again, it's like, that's one of the things where it's like, you need to be better, despite we're not going to acknowledge your actual toxic male things. Like, it's not, what is the inverse of toxic masculinity, where it's like, this is something that's put upon men that isn't good, but yet most people are fine with it. Like, if a woman slaps a man in the face in the middle of public, most people are gonna be like, he's getting it. Whoop. Whereas and I've talked to friends about this, where like it's happened to them, and fuck me, man, when they actually are like being honest with themselves and they're talking about it, they're like, it made me feel like nothing. It made me feel like the person I love didn't give a single shit. It made me feel like nothing, and it felt horrible. And then the person that you love did that to you, makes it even worse. You know what I mean? Like, you have the same inverse feelings as a woman getting hurt, physically hurt and etc. by the people that they care about. But yeah, you know, like that, to me, like that. Why didn't they make especially if they're like Gillette for men? You completely voided all of male problems. You know what I mean? And I think that's also the frustration is people are like, it's not just a one coin, man. It's not just like men are like, I'm a god. It's not how it works, motherfucker. There's so many issues you face. I'm not saying that women don't face them either, but it does feel like you have no one wanting to help you. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's why people like Jordan Peterson, who very much were like, hey, you got a problem? I'm here for you. I want to help you. I want to try to make you better. Here's the things you should do. And a lot of people like fucking lit up. A lot of men were like, thank you. Like, I felt like I had no one trying to help me and everybody telling me who I was. You know, and that's horrible. That's a horrible thing, I think. But, yes, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm completely off. Maybe I'm a fucking douche. I don't know. A male, again. I'm open for hearing the alternative argument about this, which, again, there's no real argument. I just think, like, the things that I mentioned, like, again, I don't think men like being perceived this way through the media, and I don't think this is the best way to seek your goal of making men better by just pointing out every single thing that is wrong, but it's also a stereotype, and I don't think the vast majority of men are like this, rather than showing people what they could be, like good, strong, actual, well-developed men. And it felt preachy, and there was things that I just in general I didn't agree with, like the whole wrestling thing, but maybe they're like, the kid was gonna kill him, you know? And it's like, motherfucker, you just showed this kid getting like fucking powerbombed or something, you know what I mean? Like, getting wrecked. And I'd be like, okay, this needs to stop, this is too much, you know? Maybe I'll never upload this, maybe I'll, you know, my balls will drop and I'll upload this. But yeah, this is my feelings on it. The only reason why I wanted to make this, typically I'm not the person that feels like I have to preach to you, but I felt like I've seen so many people that were missing the mark about why some people are really frustrated by this. And me, I'm in the middle, dude. At the end of the day, I'm all about, like, I love self-improvement. I love the idea of becoming better than you were before, you know, being stronger than you were the previous day, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, this just seems like not the way to do it. Like, again, like I mentioned this in a Let's Talk a long time ago, but like the whole idea of being like, hey, like the only way to become better is to be incredibly cruel to yourself and to like tell yourself that you're nothing and that you're worthless and that you're shitty. You know what I mean? Like all those things is not a good way to build yourself up to becoming things. That's a good way to think that you're growing, but in reality, you could be growing so much faster if you weren't so goddamn evil to yourself. And this very much feels like that's the case. Where again, it's like, oh, we're gonna tell you every flaw that exists in every male. Like, I guess that's another word. The wording of it's fucked up because it's like the best men can be. Men that are shitty could be better. You know what I mean? Like where it's like, hey, if you do these horrible things, then you could do this instead, and it's better. Instead of be like men. At the end of the day, this is whole thing is meme worthy. Like it's gonna be just memes for days. Anyway, subscribe right above me. Do your videos right. Hopefully I didn't trigger you. Hopefully understand that I'm just a guy with an opinion on the other side of the planet, that I'd also like to hear yours. Hopefully you're not gonna go fucking ham on me as well. But if you do, then good luck, I suppose. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. And hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and goodbye.